Wow, the crit. Oh, man. This is 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙐𝙇. In this game, you and your comrades form a party of 3 to defeat your enemies, but for a self-proclaimed masochist like me, this wasn't painful enough, so I decided to make it even harder by attempting to beat the game with just the main character, Surf. What I didn't foresee, however, was the amount of suffering I would have to go through. So, without further delay, this is the story of how that challenge run went. Okay, our story begins on the battlefield. 2 factions are facing each other, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙗, I mean the Embryons and the Vanguards. In this world, soldiers exist only to kill one another in order to reach their homecoming. To reach Nirvana. On a day that looked like your typical skirmish, everything changed once these soldiers entered in contact with someone who granted them the power to turn into Ouroboros. Okay, that's enough Xenoblade Chronicles 3 propaganda. Eventually, the weird device on the field starts infecting everyone with the D virus, and after a couple of minutes, those who got contaminated transform into a devil man. Welcome to 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙗, the game where eating others is a gameplay mechanic and is also relevant to the plot. I mean, wow! First we had the furries, and now we got Vor? These games are truly made for everyone. After that, we get introduced to our gang of comrades. Argilla, Heat, Cielo, and Gale. Gale in particular is one of my favorite characters, and he has a line he likes saying a lot.
I do not comprehend.
I hope you're ready, because you're gonna hear that quite often. Oh yeah, we also meet Sarah, the mysterious girl who was inside the machine that gave us the D virus. In order to understand what happened on the battlefield, we decide to go to Svadhisthana to question the Vanguards. Before doing that though, I go to the merchant to purchase a couple of useful items I will need, and then I explore our base called Muladhara. There are a lot of useful items in here that I made sure to pick up before exiting the place and reaching Svadhisthana.
Don't come any closer.
Oh, hey, Harley! You look really delicious today.
No. Stay back. Don't eat me. Please.
Unfortunately, Harley, who is the leader of the Vanguards, doesn't want to become my next meal, so I have to make do with his goons. During this tutorial battle, the game forces Heat and Argilla to be deployed on the field. No need to worry though, because I can simply click withdraw to get them out of here. After that, I just need to click Bufu until the ghouls are no more. Ah, it looks like food is ready. You wanna take a bite, Argilla?
I can't eat them.
Why do you hesitate? Eat.
You know how in media there is often a character who goes, "In this world, it's kill or be killed." I bet you someone is gonna say something similar, but with eating instead. Now we can finally explore the place. One thing that I like about combat is that after winning, every character has a unique victory pose, and I'm quite fond of Surf's one. Whenever he's winning, it looks like he's doing the Dio thing from JoJo. You know, the... It's also around that time that I noticed a nice little detail. So after winning a battle, you devour your enemies to gain Atma points, or AP for short. This is visually represented by this bar filling up after each victory. I remove Heat and Argilla from the active party, which is why they aren't getting EXP. However, here you can clearly see that Heat is gaining AP, while Argilla isn't. Her bar is grayed out. This makes a lot of sense because AP is earned by devouring your enemies. The previous cutscene established that Heat was fine with doing that, while Argilla was appalled by the act and refused to eat. It's only after completing this dungeon, when she finally accepts the new rules of the world, that she is able to earn AP. It's a minor thing, but I love when gameplay and story are connected like that. Svadhisthana serves as a tutorial dungeon, and it's a fairly simple one. You mostly go around activating contraptions while trying to reach Harley, who keeps running away from you.
Stay away!
Harley, tell us what's going on.
That is not important.
I love how Heat casually walks forward and chokes the guy.
In this world, it's eat or be eaten!
He said it! Heat was kind enough to soften Harley for me, but unfortunately, I still have to fight for my food because Harley proceeds to turn into his Devilman form. 𝙄𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙗 is weak to ice, which is great because I can use Bufu to exploit that weakness and then act again. Unfortunately, the same applies to me as well. Surf has an innate fire weakness, and 𝙄𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁 has 2 deadly fire spells, Skewer and Firestorm. If he goes for one of those, he can deal a lot of damage and attack again to completely destroy me. At this point in time, there is no way to cover my fire weakness, so I can't exactly fix the main issue I have with this fight. I was thinking about this conundrum a lot, until I thought about the perfect way to fix this. Human form. You see, in this game, you start the battle as a Devilman, but you can use the revert command to revert to human form. In human form, you can only attack with a gun and you lose your ability to use your Devilman spells like Bufu, but it has one amazing upside in this case. Humans have no weakness. So at the start of the fight, I can click Bufu to generate a press turn, and then turn into human form. Now 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁 cannot hit a weakness anymore, and this makes the fight a lot more manageable. This proved to be exactly what I needed, and after shooting the boss time after time, eventually the giant zebra head tasted the power of the American handgun. Die! Hey! GG! After enjoying our feast, we decide to return to Muladhara, where we are about to witness Gale devouring Cielo until Sarah jumps in to save the day.
You are the ocean's great waves, destined to seek life beyond the shore, just out of reach.
What in the hell was that?
Yeah, dude, I have no idea. What about you, Gale? Do you comprehend this?
I do not comprehend.
This is a transmission from the Karma Temple. The time has come for tribe leaders to pay their taxes.
For what purpose, dissemination machine?
Failure to comply will result in the immediate termination of your tribe.
I do not comprehend.
Well, since we don't want to die so soon, I decided to go where the government is located, the Karma Temple.
I came here to size you up myself. You're just a skinny little pretty boy.
Thanks, I guess? This is where we get to meet the other tribe leaders, and after paying our taxes, we are granted an audience with the President of the United States of the Junkyard, Angel. Apparently, the debt collection didn't go so well this year, so as punishment, all the tribes will be forced to compete in the Hunger Games. A fight to the death where only one tribe will be left standing, and whoever it is won't have to pay their taxes ever again. Also, during this meeting, Angel proceeds to say my favorite line in the entire game.
Rend, slaughter, devour your enemies. There is no other way to survive. You cannot escape your hunger, warriors of purgatory.
These are the first words you hear in the intro cutscene when you boot up the game, and I cannot stop thinking about them. Once we are done, exiting the temple will trigger a tutorial allowing us to finally purchase and equip mantras. In this game, you don't learn new skills by leveling up. Instead, you need to equip a mantra and fill its gauge by collecting AP in order to master it and unlock its skills. The best thing about that system is that once you've learned the skill, it's yours forever. Remember how in Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, the Magatama system forced you to discard skills forever in order to learn new ones? Yeah, that won't happen in this game. This system ensures that I will never be put in a situation where I discard a skill forever, only to realize later down the road that it was mandatory for completing a challenge. If you know, you know. I used this opportunity to purchase 3 mantras: Earth Spirit, Fire Spirit, and Protection. Well, after this shocking revelation, Gale concluded that teaming up with another tribe would give us the best odds of winning, and in our case, it's gonna be with the Maribels, the tribe led by Jinana. You know, whenever someone gets demon powers, they also obtain a brand on their body, and I gotta say, they sure chosen an interesting place for Jinana's brand. Yeah, Gale, I'm sure you proposed an alliance with the Maribels for strategic purposes. It's definitely not because of Jinana's assets. During this cutscene, you get the chance to select whether you will help the Maribels or betray them. I decided to go with helping them without betrayal. This might not look that important to you, but this decision will matter when we get to the sequel. Now we can go to the Maribel's place, but before doing that, there are a couple of things that we can do. If you return to the Vanguard's base where you defeated Harley, you can obtain the blue key, and this item can be used to destroy walls of the corresponding colors. There is a wall inside Svadhisthana as well as in Muladhara. Thanks to that key, I can get rid of these obstacles to obtain some pretty useful loot. With that done, I can finally go to Manipura to meet Jinana. This is where Jinana and Argila have a little talk, and there is one specific scene that I have to show you.
Are you sad?
What is sad?
I'm not sure. You just seem that way.
If my reaction is sad, then yes, I am sad.
Man, like, this scene makes total sense in the context of the game, but the delivery is just... The time has come to explore the Maribel's base. This is where we get introduced to the concept of hunt skills. You see, in this game, Vor is actually a game mechanic. If you kill an enemy with a hunt skill, you devour them, and that allows you to gain a lot more AP. This makes devouring optimal in order to fill the mantra gauge. I don't know how I should feel about this. With this new knowledge in mind, I proceeded to rend, slaughter, devour your enemies, until I managed to master the Earth Spirit mantra, unlocking the Earth spell Terra. After eating more demons, I mastered the protection mantra to learn Dia, my first healing spell. I also got enough EXP to reach level 10, and that unlocked 2 additional skill slots, so now I can equip up to 6 skills. Manipura has a couple of mini-bosses you need to get through in order to progress. The first one is a triple marker encounter where they ambush you before you get to transform. And just seeing these birds holding blades remind me of the stupid birds I had to deal with in Elden Ring. You might think that starting the fight in human form would be a bad thing, but it's actually really good for me because the birds are weak to gun. The second force encounter is a bit more complicated. It starts with 3 yakas that you have to take down, then 5 more yakas, and then we aren't even done yet because I have to take down a 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙉. This guy has 2 press turns and start attacking immediately after appearing. Power Charge is just like Focus in Nocturne, so whenever he clicks this move, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 gets to deal a ton of damage. Fortunately for us, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 is weak to Earth, and this is exactly why I wanted to learn Terra. Thanks to that spell, I could hit the weakness and then cast Dia with my second action to heal myself. The sweaty fight came down to the wire and I almost ran out of MP, but with a final Terra, Surf was able to send 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 back to Mother Earth. Once I managed to reach level 12, I spent some time devouring my enemies to master the Earth Shrine mantra, and that gave me access to the AoE spell Matera, as well as the Earth Boost passive that I can equip to deal 33% more damage. With that out of the way, I can open Gate 4 to meet Jinana again. I must defeat her subordinate who looks like a character straight out of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He also has one of the weirdest names I've ever heard.
My name is Bat.
Wow, truly one of the names of all time. Bat has a gimmick that confused me a lot during my first playthrough. While flying, he has no weakness, but from time to time, he will enter into a guard stance and land on the ground. At that specific moment, he is weak to Earth attacks, so whenever that happens, I can click Terra. As for when it's not guarding, my best bet is to go for basic attacks. It's a lengthy fight, but as long as you have the right tools and enough healing, the stupid bat will get clapped.
I've been dying for a snack. Come here.
Dude, challenge run, no comrades.
It's a cutscene, it doesn't count.
What do you mean, nuh-uh?
After successfully preventing Heat from making me fail the run, 𝙁𝘖𝙄𝙉 managed to convince a Crush to trust us, so we can all move to the next step of the plan. Look at Bat being frustrated. I sure hope this clown doesn't end up becoming an annoying recurring boss who keeps showing up again and again just to make me maul really hard. Surely, that won't ever happen. The next step in our plan to become tax-free is storming the Citadel. You can choose whenever you wanna enter inside the Citadel, so I made sure to go back to Muladhara to purchase the items I would be needing for my next journey. Once I was done, I went back to Anahata and started exploring the place. The cool thing about this dungeon is that random encounters will remain disabled until you reach a certain point, so I can loot all these rooms and then proceed to destroy the double angel squad with almighty damage in the form of my wild card. Doing this permanently turns on random encounters, and one thing you will notice if you play this game is that the random encounter rate is a bit silly. In order to progress, I need 2 key items locked behind 2 mini boss fights. The first one I went for is Tarrasque. This boss is one of those assholes who spam elect attacks to paralyze you and then goes for physical attacks because those will always crit when you are paralyzed. After dying 4 times to that BS, I decided to use the Bolt Wall, one of the new additions from DDS. When used, this item creates an anti-shield that will nullify a specific element. Thanks to these items, I was able to send Master Roshi back to Dragon Ball. The second fight is against a Valkyrie who loves spamming physical repel, a strategy that is fairly useless against someone such as I, a magic spammer. With the 2 items in my possession, I can deactivate the trap to keep moving forward. I went to the large Karma terminal to save my game, and then I went back to Muladhara to purchase a couple of items as well as 8 Sonic Stones. These will come in handy pretty soon. Back in the Citadel, we finally reached the throne room where the leader of the Solids was supposed to be, only to realize that it was a trap. Gee, I wonder who told them about our plan.
Bat came squealing to us.
Great.
Feeding time?
Yep, this dude casually goes, "It's feeding time," and then he starts feeding all over me. This is yet again one of those boss fights where you have to defeat multiple waves of enemies. You have to defeat 2 waves of 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉, and then you get to fight the boss 𝙬𝙗 with his gang squad. This guy has the word third in his name, and as you might expect, this fight smells like shit. The first wave of 𝙋𝘼𝙗𝙉 always gets to attack before you do, and that's always great to see. This is exactly why I bought a lot of Sonic Stones. These guys are weak to force, so I can use these items to take care of the 2 waves. And then for the last one, I saved my 1 blast item to ensure that I could 2-shot the go-go dancers. Getting to this part isn't too difficult, but dealing with the 𝙬𝙗 is quite challenging. This guy has a lot of powerful physical attacks with annoying status effects, and if that wasn't enough, he will go for power charge to destroy you. No matter what I did, I wasn't able to survive his power charge boosted attacks. So I decided to raise my vitality as well as my HP stat with boosting items. Thanks to these items, I was finally able to survive. Sadly, I didn't have a way to hit the boss's weakness, so I had to go with Terra. Dealing with the annoying status effects and the ridiculous damage wasn't easy, but with enough perseverance, the turd was thrown to the trash, where it rightfully belonged. After this W, I get out of the Citadel just in time to see me gut punch Jinana and throw her so hard she actually ragdolls. This game is a lot more open when it comes to displaying violence, and I really like that because it fits the world very well. Sadly for Ardula, her girlfriend hadn't eaten in a while, and you know what they say when you are hungry.
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfies.
And now we have to fight Jinana's Devilman form. In my first playthrough, this fight went pretty well, so I expect the same thing to happen during this challenge run. The status effects, no. Wow, the crit. Bro! Wow. This is dumb.
Oh shit!
Here we go again.
Never mind, 𝙋𝘉𝙗 is easily the hardest boss I've met so far, and you can tell she's the real deal because this boss has no weakness. She has a ton of HP compared to the previous bosses I fought, but that's not the main issue. The big problem is that she has Maren Karin, and this one move single-handedly showcases my biggest weakness in a solo run. In DDS, status effects last for a decade, so if she manages to charm me, Surf would just sit there doing nothing while getting smacked, or even worse, he will use Dia to heal her. Now, to help with this, there is a skill that I could use. That skill is Null Charm, which is from the mantra Vidya Raja, but getting it is quite expensive. In order to get it, I would have to master Adamant and Kichijo as well, meaning that getting the right to learn Null Charm would cost me 43k Maka. As a broke victim of capitalism, this wasn't something I could easily afford, so I decided to keep trying the fight at level 16. And that didn't end well at all. On top of Maren Karin, 𝙋𝘉𝙗 was able to cut my HP in half with Hama, and if Surf started simping too hard, he could use my own healing spell to heal her. I couldn't fix the Maren Karin problem, but I quickly realized that there was a solution for the 2 other issues I was facing. Yup, we are gonna revert to human form again. Humans cannot use spells from their Devilman form, so this will prevent Surf from healing 𝙋𝘉𝙗 while charmed. The other cool quirk about human form is that it has an innate immunity to expel, so Hama won't be an issue anymore. The only downside is that my gun attacks are really weak. Getting through the Maren Karin phase was extremely painful and it made me rage really hard, but eventually, after dealing enough damage, I managed to get to the second phase. In this one, 𝙋𝘉𝙗 will summon her 2 little ponies, and this is where she gets to use her combo move, Seraph Lore. This expel attack removes 80% of your total HP, and this could have been an issue, but thankfully for me, I blocked that damage type. So just by being in human form, I can avoid taking damage from her ultimate attack, and since blocking makes the opposing party lose press turns, this completely shuts down the enemy phase whenever they go for this move. And the best part about this phase is that she stops using Maren Karin completely. From there, my game plan is simple. If the enemies go for too many physical attacks, I make sure to keep myself healed up, and when the opportunity presents itself, I shoot 𝙋𝘉𝙗. This fight lasted forever because of my shitty handgun, but without the threat of Maren Karin, it became a lot more manageable. I was able to consistently shoot 𝙋𝘉𝙗, and after shooting her for God knows how long, I finally managed to make her bite the dust.
Another one.
Oh! Oh, finally! Oh, get destroyed, Jinana. Right after this, Ardula has a touching moment with Jinana, and I just want to show you what he decided to say to her.
Devour her. What a waste.
Man, this guy is ruthless. I love him. By the way, speaking of Heat, I just realized something. So his name is Heat, right? Well, here's the thing. When you remove the H in its name, you get the word eat.
Eat.
Coincidence? I think not. Oh, look who overheard 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 talking about confidential information. I sure hope nothing bad comes out of that. After these unfortunate events, the gang decides to go back to Manipura, and this is where the best character in the game gets to join our party. My boy Gale.
Plan? 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 How can you be like that? Our comrade died.
Comrade? I do not comprehend.
Just ignore her. She's just pissed because her girlfriend got killed.
What is pissed? Her girlfriend?
Okay, it's time for Manipura Redux. Interestingly enough, the enemies you find here are a lot more likely to run away this time around. And when you do encounter a member of the Solids, they just run away. How intriguing. It's almost as if they are luring us into a...
I understand. This was a trap.
Oh great, it's Man-Bat, and he's ready for round 2. For this one, I got good news and bad news. The good news is that Man-Bat will stay in his guarding stand for the entirety of the fight, so I will always be able to hit him with Terra or Matera. The bad news is that this silly clown always summons 2 Baphomet who love spamming death instant kill spells. This wouldn't be so bad if the odds of those moves landing were lower, but here's the thing. Mudo has a 40% chance to proc, and Mudoon has a 60% chance to instantly kill you. After getting killed 10 times in a row by these goats, I decided to get myself a new mantra to help with the fight, and also to please our capitalist overlords. Fortunately for me, the Yaksa mantra is fairly easy to get, and mastering it would give me the Void Death skill. Sadly, there is a big issue. I cannot easily grind AP. Right now, every enemy in Manipura has a really high chance to flee, so it's impossible for me to hit them before they skedaddle. This won't change until I defeat the Man-Bat, so grinding in Manipura won't work. My second idea was to go back to the Citadel, but that place is completely locked right now. This means that I only have one area I can go to. The Vanguard's base. You know, the tutorial area where enemies give like 0 EXP and AP. To make my experience less miserable, I purchased the Magic Reed, an item that raises the encounter rate. You can tell I'm desperate when I'm raising the encounter rate in a game that's infamous for having a high encounter rate to begin with. This took way longer than I wish it did, but after eating a lot of KFC, I mastered Yaksa, and as a result, Surf learned Void Death. I then went back to challenge Man-Bat, thinking that I had finally found the solution to my problem. Only to realize that I was wrong. Man-Bat regularly spams Void Expel or Void Earth. If he goes for Void Expel, it's not a problem because I can use an Earth spell to hit a weakness and then cast Void Death. But when he goes for Void Earth, I cannot do anything. I have an item called the Holy Arrow that I can use to exploit Baphomet's weakness, but it's an AoE, meaning that it's guaranteed to also hit Man-Bat, and that guy blocks Expel. So instead of getting a press turn, I just end my player phase. To fix this, I had to learn the Hama spell from the Angel Mantra, which meant that I had to yet again spend hours inside the tutorial area eating shitty meals until I unlocked the skill. As painful as it was, it proved to be the right call. With both Hama and Terra, I was able to disregard the shields to target the correct weakness, and then use my second action to cast Void Death. The goats couldn't cheese me anymore with Mudo, and after 5 minutes of combat, the bat was forced to submit. Man, dealing with Mudo was really annoying. I sure hope I won't have to deal with that stupid spell ever again. Kill him!
How dare you drag her into this mess?
𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉, please kill this bat already.
I'll taste your flesh one day, woman!
Oh yeah, if you ever wondered how 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉 is able to talk while in her Devilman form, apparently it's via her toothy cleavage. Make of that information what you will. Welp, the Man-Bat got away and now we have to escape Manipura. Right after the boss fight, you get access to a room with a safe terminal and a free healing spot. Oh nice, this is going to be the perfect spot to work on my mantra grinding. That's what I initially thought, but oh my god, the random encounters in here are stupid. Remember how much of a pain in the ass Usaz was because of Marin Karin? Yeah, the enemies in here all have some stupid status effects that they can use to stunlock you until the end of time. Dealing with the random encounters was really painful until I finally managed to master the Earth Temple mantra. This gave me access to 2 medium damage Earth spells, Terazi and Avalanche. With those, I was finally dealing good damage and that made grinding a lot easier. After eating an enemy in third act, I managed to gain enough EXP to reach level 20 and enough AP to master the Battle Demon mantra. Level 20 was one of the breakpoints I wanted to reach because getting there unlocked the last 2 additional skill slots I was missing, so from now on, I will be able to equip 8 skills. As for mastering Battle Demon, this was a mantra I really wanted to get early because it unlocks the hunt skill Devil Fist. You see, in this game there are 2 types of hunt skills, normal and fatal. The normal ones deal damage just like your regular attacks. As for fatal hunt skills, instead of dealing damage, they have a chance to one-shot the enemy. Now, what's really interesting about fatal skills is how they work when you use them against a frightened foe. In this game, whenever you nullify an attack or hit a weakness, there is a chance that you will frighten your enemies. When enemies are frightened, they take more damage from normal hunt skills, but that's not all. If you use a fatal hunt skill on them, it will turn into a guaranteed one-shot. So now, instead of struggling to finish off enemies with Devour, I can just fish for the frightened status, and then I go for the feast to easily take out my enemies and gain a lot of AP. With this strat, I was able to master a couple of mantras to learn useful skills like Mazan and Maragi. Then I opened the door to challenge the 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁 gang squad. These annoying enemies love spamming comatose to put you to sleep, and I have no way to deal with that right now, so you know, that's fun. The next horde I have to deal with is a swarm of 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁. With a combination of Mazan and Devil Fist, I was able to deal with those creatures, and then the 4th wave appeared. This wave is different from the others because the 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 in wave 4 have a combo Mamudoon attack, with a 60% chance to kill you. Unfortunately for these guys, I have Void Death. From there, it's just a matter of feasting until nothing is left on my plate. And now only one boss remains between me and the sweet taste of freedom. This guy can be pretty dangerous, but fortunately for me, he's weak to earth, so I was able to deal a lot of damage with Terazi and end the fight before it got ugly. Now, I could get out of here, but there is something I want to show you first. Manipura is a pretty interesting dungeon because it's the first location where you can start a field hunt. In DDS, field hunts are mini-games where you roam through an area in Devilman form while destroying hovering spheres called weak demons. Once you've cleared the hunting area of all the weak demons, a Mitama will show up. These demons are really hard to kill, but if you manage to defeat them with hunt skills, you can earn a ton of AP, and that's one of the best ways to speed up the mantra grind. The first time I went through Manipura, I actually tried field hunting, but it wasn't worth it because I couldn't kill the Mitamas in time before they would run away. Now, thanks to Devil Fist, beating these guys is actually possible, so I did that a couple of times to master the mantras 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁 and Vijaraja. Mastering Vidya unlocks the passive skill Null Charm, so finally I have a way to avoid getting cheesed by that status effect. Once you return to the home base, you will notice that the place has been attacked by the Solids, and Sarah is nowhere to be found. Yeah, unfortunately our princess is in another castle. She has been kidnapped and transported to the next dungeon we will have to explore, the Spencer Mansion. Upon entering inside the Spencer Mansion, you will be greeted by an intriguing static broadcast.
Welcome to Raccoon City's wonderful Spencer Mansion. The story to be told now is that of a muscular prince built like a gorilla and his sister, the beautiful princess.
Of all the dungeons in this game, the Spencer Mansion is easily my favorite. This one has a heavy focus on solving puzzles in order to progress, and I'm a sucker for those. Let's start with the puzzle on floor 1.
This story took place not long ago. In a certain kingdom, there lived a powerful prince with strength beyond imagination. Thanks to his numerous feats, the prince was given the title of boulder-punching asshole. Alas, the prince was the victim of a terrible curse, for he could not conceive a child of his own. In order to continue the bloodline, the prince devised an elaborate plan to find a suitable partner for his sister, the princess.
For this section, you have to find the portrait of the perfect partner for the princess. Be careful though, because a lot of these portraits are actually traps that will drop you into the depths of the mansion. And you definitely don't want to stay down there for too long because the demons will one-shot you with Mudo. Ah yes, they have Mudo, because of course they do. I got cheesed in here many times, but eventually I found the right portrait. Doing this removes the barrier, so now we can go upstairs and explore the second floor. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, we have to deal with the Hip Hop Brothers. As you might have guessed by their speech mannerisms, these are the Jack Brothers. But what you may not know is that these guys are called Fiends in this game. You know, the title that was reserved to the skeletons in Nocturne? Yeah, spooky stuff. Jack Frost isn't too bad to deal with because Surf has an innate ice resistance to decrease the damage of his attacks, but for Pyro Jack, it's a different story. He can easily exploit my fire weakness, and if that wasn't enough, he can use Mind Charge to raise the power of his next magic spell even higher. I wasn't prepared for the fight and it led to me getting roasted. I was thinking about using Void Fire to protect myself from Pyro Jack's attacks, until I noticed something. See, these guys aren't immune to status effects, meaning that I can get stun waves to work on them. When an enemy is stunned, their accuracy is heavily decreased to the point where they pretty much can't hit you anymore. So immediately at the start of the fight, I went for Stun Wave and got the status proc on Pyrojack. From that point onwards, he was never able to hit me and I just went for Bufu over and over to knock him out. After that, I proceeded to stun Jack Frost and I roasted his ass until the snowman melted. Winning this fight rewards me with the Jack Cell, an item that I can sell to earn more Maka. This will come in handy in the future. Alright, time for the second puzzle.
One day, the boulder-punching prince finally stumbled upon a suitable candidate for his sister. The young man was a police officer who had recently arrived in town. He was exactly the person that the Boulder Prince was looking for, but try as he might, no matter what the prince did, he was unable to get through to him. The young man was under the influence of a spell casted by a mysterious spy from a neighboring country. Determined to see his bloodline survive, the Boulder Prince thought of a strategy to convey his concerns to the young man.
So for this section, you have 3 statues. The young man, the princess, and the evil spy who is interfering with their love. You need to move the princess and the mirrors in the room to guide the light from her to the young man. There are a couple of puzzles like this one, and finding ways to solve them is a ton of fun. You also get bonus items from completing them, which is nice. And now, let's talk about the final puzzle room. In this one, you have to guide the light of the Boulder Prince's bloodline to the princess, and it's easily my favorite. One thing that I love about this puzzle, and any puzzle inside the Spencer Mansion for that matter, is that you won't be bothered by random encounters. So you can take all the time you need to work on solving them without getting interrupted. After finding the solution, the path ahead is cleared, but before going forward, I need to do a couple of things. The first one is getting the yellow key that's also in this room. This will become relevant later. Now I need to prepare for the upcoming boss fight. For this one, I need force and fire skills, so I devoured a couple of demons to master the mantras required to learn 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁 and Zanma.
Surf!
Apparently, they were hired by Sarah's father to retrieve her. Okay, let's think about a way to fix Heat? Bro, what are you doing? Heat, you moron! Come back here, he's going to stab you! What did you expect? This is so dumb. God damn it, Heat, why are you the way that you are? Unfortunately, Bat managed to grab Sarah and it looks like he's going to bring her back to her father.
Huh?
Hey, Cielo, that's my boy. Eat shit, Bat. Alright, we got Sarah back. There is only one thing left to do. Defeating Mixed Devilman form, Rahu. Rahu is actually composed of 2 different entities, the head and the body. When playing normally, this fight is actually quite challenging because of Rahu's gimmick. Once the boss gets his first turn, he will target one of your party members and take them out of the fight. The head will then give a big suck to whoever is trapped continuously, and if you fail to deal enough damage before it's done sucking the life out of you, then you have to deal with a more dangerous Rahu capable of using buffs and debuffs to deal even more damage. But here's the thing, this is how it works when you have party members. It turns out that if you go into the fight solo, Rahu will never use his gimmick. So in this case, soloing completely trivializes the fight. All I need to do is nuke the body with enough 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 and then I can click Zanma until the head goes down. Alright, you fat freak, die. That was the easiest fight so far.
Easy doesn't. Get out of here.
Where are you going?
Surf? What was it Heat said he'd do back there?
Yep. We'll tear you apart, you fat freak! I'll tear you apart, you fat freak!
You know, it would be pretty funny if the sequel DDS2 also had a boss with a gimmick similar to Rahu who gets completely shut down by going solo. Why am I being so specific, you ask? Oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Well, it looks like Bat got away.
As much as his sentence gives me conniptions, it's nice to see the gang together.
Comrades?
That's right.
By the way, there is something you should know about these guys. All these cool characters are members of my tribe. And just like them, you too can join the Embryon by becoming a channel member. I have recently enabled YouTube memberships. This feature allows you guys to support me with a monthly fee, and in return you get cool exclusive perks. Currently, I have 3 membership levels. Regardless of your level, as soon as you become a channel member, you get access to exclusive badges and emotes. As for the membership levels, here is what they will get you. If you are part of the Embryon, your name will be displayed at the end of the video, and you will also get frequent status updates about video progress and upload schedule via members-only community posts. If you become a comrade, on top of the Embryon perks, you will get access to the renders I use in my videos. This includes the character renders you see in the thumbnails, as well as all the silly PNGs like this one. Lastly, if you join the Fiends, on top of the perks from the previous 2 tiers, you also get access to the scripts I use to craft my videos, as well as members-only content. This can range from bloopers to behind the scenes and highlight videos like hype moments or death reels. I do my best to produce high-quality videos, and I'm confident that this is apparent to anyone who has watched them. The downside of this approach is that I can't upload frequently because of how much time goes into completing these projects. Every upload is essentially a gamble, and this puts me at the mercy of the YouTube algorithm. One way to fix this would be to become less reliant on the YouTube algorithm to survive, and this is where you can help me. By becoming a channel member, you can enable me to keep delivering high-quality videos without having to worry too much about views and ad revenue. If you decide to become a channel member, know that you have my eternal gratitude.
I do not comprehend.
Oh, hush, that's enough from you.
Heat's facial expression in this scene is priceless. You can tell the poor fella doesn't enjoy being friend-zoned. The time has come to get rid of the brute and the man-bat. And in order to do that, our esteemed tactician Gale has a plan. The thing with this next dungeon is that once you enter, you won't be able to leave until it's been completed, so I need to make sure I'm fully prepared first. If you return to the Spencer Mansion, you will find a Pyro Jack looking for a key to open this big treasure chest. This side quest is tied to an optional boss you can fight, but I'm not strong enough to tackle that one yet, so I'll be back later. Now, you remember that yellow key I got earlier? Well, if you go back to the second floor of the mansion, there are 2 yellow walls that you can destroy with that key, and one of these leads to a field hunt spot with Nigi-Mitamas. This is great because I can eat these guys to quickly master a couple of mantras, but before doing that, I need to get rich first. You see, the mantra I want in particular is the Earth Emperor one. The issue is that it costs 100k Maka to get it. I don't have that kind of money right now, but fortunately, I know a pretty good get-rich-quick scheme. There are items called cells in this game that you can sell for a lot of Maka. Now, what's interesting about those items is that you can sell them at a higher price if you go to the vendor on the right solar phase. Thanks to that knowledge, I was able to sell the items to make a ton of profit, and that made me go over 100k Maka. I was then able to purchase Earth Emperor to please my capitalist overlords, and then I went back to the Spencer Mansion to feast on the Mitamas. I devoured these guys a few times in order to master a couple of mantras like Earth Emperor and Demon Lord. Mastering Earth Emperor gives me access to Terradyne, a heavy Earth attack as well as Earth Amp, the passive skill boosting Earth attacks by 50%. By the way, the Amp and Boost skills actually stack, so I can equip both of these to increase my damage even higher.
I can smell that Sarah girl's scent in the air. There's no mistake. Varen.
Don't ever call me by that name. I am a colonel. Colonel Beck. Listen to me, Angel. I don't care who the government is sending. I'm not paying my taxes. Now get me the hell out of here. Our orders are to capture the girl and send her back to her father. Complete your mission, soldier, no matter what it takes. You won't get another chance.
Yes, sir. Varen.
Harder, Daddy. What?
Alright, it's time to explore the next dungeon, the Titanic. Ardila is going to disguise herself as Sarah to serve as bait, and Cielo's reaction to that is pure gold.
Okay, this seriously won't work.
Why is that?
Obviously, Sarah isn't this tall, her hair is way different, and her arms ain't that thick. Oh!
Well, excuse me.
Stuff like that is why I like these guys so much. Okay, so the Titanic is essentially a map from Counter-Strike.
Bomb has been planted.
This boat has 8 floors, and on each of these, you need to plant a bomb at a specific spot. The random encounters here are manageable for the most part, until they pull out that one move.
Another one. And another one.
Of course! Everyone spams Mudo in this game. Ah yes, they have Mudo, because of course they do. As I kept exploring the Titanic, I made sure to master a couple of useful mantras. Taking care of Fear Spirit gave me access to Diorama, so now I have a more potent healing spell. I also took care of Fire Lord for Maragion, Evil Spirit for Death Resist, and lastly, I mastered Demon God. This one in particular was another mantra I wanted to get because it gives you access to Great Feast, a fatal AoE hunt skill. Getting access to a fatal AoE is huge because now I can devour multiple enemies at once when they are frightened. Now that I'm done planting all the bombs, it's finally time to destroy the Man-Bat. That is what I thought I would say, but unfortunately, this is one of the hardest fights in the run. In preparation for this fight, I made sure to equip Earth Amp and Earth Boost. Thanks to that, I should be able to kill Bat in 3 hits of my Pterodine. So why is this fight so hard then if I can just 3-shot the boss? Well, that's because the Man-Bat has a new gimmick. He can use a move called 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙐𝙇, an attack that drains your HP and also turns you into a bat.
Oh no!
And this is where the issue lies. Getting turned into a bat massively cuts down your HP, makes you take more damage, and on top of that, you also gain a force weakness, allowing Bat to completely destroy you with force skills like Zanma. First, we had Nocturne turning you into a fly, and then there is Digital Devour Saga turning you into a bat. These games are truly something else. Now, with this in mind, I decided to use the skill Force Repel to prevent this guy from hitting me with his force attacks. Then I quickly realized that this was a bad idea for 2 reasons. The first one is that even if you repel the force attack and the status effects wears off, the Man-Bat can just go nuh-uh and turn you into a bat again as many times as he wants. He will just keep you in this bat loop until you eventually die. The second issue is that you actually don't want to make Bat lose his last press turn, because that's the press turn he uses to go back to his guarding position. This is actually pretty important because this boss is only weak to Earth when he's guarding. If you repel an attack, you completely end the enemy phase, and when that happens, you deny Bat the ability to guard, so he will just be flying instead, and when he's flying, he has no weakness. I tried to use the skill Void Force to see if it would be better since it only takes 2 press turn icons instead of completely shutting down the enemy phase, but that also didn't really work. This fight is so frustrating because the stupid Bat is 1 hit away from dying, but because of his silly gimmick, I am completely walled. After failing many times in a row, I concluded that there were only 2 ways to win this fight. You kill Bat before he goes for 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙁, or you have to pray that he doesn't use the move at all. Killing him before getting turned into a bat means that realistically, you would have to 2-shot him. To that end, I allocated my level up points into magic, and I also used my magic boosting items to reach 50 magic, but even after doing that, I was still unable to do it. Knowing what I know about this game now, I suspect that this is because of level scaling. To some extent, your level impacts the amount of damage you can deal. So while my magic is quite high, the fact that I'm just level 34 means that I don't have enough firepower to pull it off. The situation was dire, but nevertheless, I kept fighting. I failed miserably many times, but eventually, Bat, in typical Bat fashion, got cocky, and I made sure he would regret that. Die, you stupid Bat! Be gone! Oh, this feels so good. Yes, the best cutscene in the game. Come on. I will say this. Props to Atlus for creating a character so hateable. The catharsis you feel after finally getting rid of him is just unparalleled. At last, I won't have to see this stupid Man-Bat ever again. Man, that was great. Let's just pretend that the cutscene where he forcefully kisses Sarah without her consent never happened. You know, this scene is already pretty bad out of context, but it somehow gets worse after you've played the sequel DDS2. Now it's time to meet Lupa, the leader of the wolves.
What assurance do we have that you are not here on Varen's behalf?
I vow upon my honor.
Honor? What is this honor you speak of?
I see it within you as well.
I do not comprehend.
I can see it in your eyes.
Honestly, out of all the tribe leaders we have encountered so far, Lupa is easily my favorite. After the gang agrees to team up with the wolves, we get to see Lupa transform into his sick-looking Devilman form, and then we can begin the exploration of the Samsara tunnels. This is one of the longest dungeons in the game, so before plunging into the sewers, I did a couple of things. Mainly purchasing enough items to cure status effects and working on my mantras. I mastered Fire Emperor to get Agidine and Fire Amp, then I ate some more Mitamas to take care of the Ice Wolf mantra, but yeah, when you use hunt skills too often, there is a chance that you get the stomach ache. When you have that, you won't be able to earn AP until you cure it. It's basically a time waster, and it's one of the things I really don't like about this game, but fortunately for us, there is a skill you can learn to make that a non-issue, and I will get that in the near future. After reloading my save, I was finally able to master Ice Wolf, and then I also took care of the Ice Master mantra to learn Bufudyne and Ice Amp. So, back to the sewers. This dungeon has a couple of water puzzles with a time limit. There is a lot of trial and error involved in order to find the correct path, but honestly, I had a blast completing those puzzles whenever they showed up. I also discovered a pretty good way to speed up the mantra grind. In here you can find Isoras. These guys are pretty easy to defeat, and once you do that, there is a chance that you will get the surprise Forney's reinforcement. This demon is weak to Elec, and that's pretty convenient because it means that you can paralyze it. When the demon is incapacitated by a status effect like sleep, paralysis, you have an increased chance to one-shot them with fatal hunting skills. So I can either frighten Forneus or paralyze it to quickly end the fight and gain a lot of AP. Thanks to that, I was able to quickly master the Holy Beast mantra. Getting that one is a big deal because it unlocks the skill Iron Stomach. With this skill equipped, I will never have to worry about the annoying stomach aches. Just make sure you avoid being greedy when fighting Forneus because this guy has Modune. Because of course he does, like every enemy in this game, I swear to God, why? Eventually, I reached the end of the sewers and I knew that I had to prepare. The boss ahead is one that's known for being quite challenging, so I made sure to get the specific skills I would need for the fight. I mastered a ton of mantras, but out of all of them, 2 were extremely important for the upcoming boss fight: Karma and Queen. With Karma, I got the useful buffing spells Rakukaja and Sokukaja. And with Queen, I got one of the best passive skills in the game, Physical Resist. Thanks to this goaded skill, I will be able to reduce the damage of physical attacks by 50%. Now I must defeat the boss standing in my way, Cerberus. Just like Jinana refused to eat others, so did Lupa. After succumbing to his hunger, what was once a respectable man became nothing but a wild beast, and unfortunately, we need to put him down.
Lupa. Wait. It's not the same anymore.
Cerberus has 3 heads.
Well, duh.
Each head gets 1 press turn, its own HP, and distinct moveset. The left head handles buffs and debuffs, the center head attacks, and the right head is on healing duty. Also, this guy is one of those bosses who has no weakness. Oh yeah, he also has a heavy physical attack called Rend. Slaughter, devour your enemies. Ice is the element of choice for this fight because Cerberus doesn't resist it, but the lack of weakness means that I will only be able to act once per turn. To make sure the boss wouldn't infinitely heal itself, I went for the right head first. Bufudyne, powered by Ice Amp and Ice Boost, deals a lot of damage, and after landing a couple of those, I was able to get rid of the right head. As the fight goes on, Cerberus' onslaught becomes more and more oppressive, forcing me to click Diarama more often and use the Kaja stones here and there to remove his buffs. It's a pretty difficult fight, but I should be able to... Ah, Mamudo again. Of course. Of course he has Mudo. Everything has Mudo in this game. Ah, yes, I forgot to mention it. This boss also has Mamudo, because of course he does. I was getting sick of the Mudo BS, so I decided to equip the passive skill Death Resist. That passive cuts the proc rate of Mudo type skills by half, and it proved to be invaluable during the rematch. After getting rid of the right head again, I decided to focus on the center head for a specific reason. You see, when the center head is the only one remaining, Cerberus will enter into a frenzy mode. In that state, he can do crazy stuff like using Psycho Rage to grant himself 4 actions, boosting his physical attacks with Power Charge, and doing the same thing but with magic attacks thanks to Mind Charge. But here's the thing, this only happens when the center head is the last one standing. So if I get rid of the center head right now, the left head will be easier to deal with. It was quite tough, but after repeatedly landing spell after spell, my damage numbers turned red, and soon after, the center head was no more. With the threat of the frenzied mode neutralized, the fight became a lot more manageable, and eventually I was able to put Lupa out of his misery. That head cannot do anything anymore. Alright. I'm sorry, Lupa. I am so sorry. If I'm being real with you, this death kinda got to me. For Argila's girlfriend, I didn't really care, but Lupa was a lot more interesting. His interactions with Gale, while brief, were really enjoyable, and while I wish we could have seen more of him, alas, it was never meant to be. Speaking of Gale, this is when he gets his awakening. From that point up until the end of DDS2, my man is going to get an insane amount of character development, and honestly, I'm here for it. After defeating Cerberus, I took the ladder and that led me straight into 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁, the territory controlled by the last tribe in our way, the Brutes. As soon as I got there, I went straight to the shop on the max solar phase to sell all the good loot I had amassed while I was in the sewers. This is great because that newfound wealth will fuel my future mantra shenanigans, but it also had another cool side effect. When you sell enough stuff, new items will be added to the shop. This is pretty useful because I have just unlocked the Graven image. This item is an infinitely reusable medium heal that I can only use during combat. This is huge because the Graven image is essentially an infinite version of Diorama. I don't have to equip that healing spell anymore, and that frees up the slot for other useful skills I could need for future fights. After that, I purchased the Fire God mantra, and then I decided to knock out some optional quests. Previously, while I was exploring the sewers, I found the red key. With this one, you can destroy the red walls, and if you go back to Svadhisthana, there is a wall that you can get rid of that leads to a completely hidden part of the dungeon. I never did that during my first playthrough, so it felt great to go into uncharted territory. While going through this area, I managed to get enough AP to master Fire God. This is one of the most important mantras for this run because it unlocks Fire Resist. Now I can finally equip this skill to cover my innate fire weakness. After finding a way to turn the power back on, I purchased the Mother Earth mantra and I decided to challenge the hidden boss of this section, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙁 human form. If you can call whatever this is human. Fred Flintstone is a lot more dangerous than you may think, and you can tell it's gonna be one of those boss fights because this guy has no weakness. At the start of the fight, he will mostly try to paralyze you with elect spells, and then slide punch you in the face. That is until you deal enough damage to reach his second phase. Once you do, his moveset will expand dramatically. Before you know it, he will be buffing his attack, then his magic, and then he will nuke you with 𝑚𝑒GIDDO. Now, everything I said so far makes the fight difficult, but I don't have an issue with that. What I do have an issue with, however, is this BS. Yup, this guy has Mamudoon, because of course he does. Even with Death Resist, with how often 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙁𝙁 goes for Mamudoon, he is bound to get you sooner or later. Ideally, I would need a passive skill Null Death for this fight, but getting that one would be too expensive. I had to find another solution, and I did find one after analyzing this boss's AI. Fred Flintstone has what I like to call attack strings, meaning that there are certain moves that he will always chain together. One of these chains is Mahamahan into Mamudoon. The fact that he starts the chain with an expel move is pretty convenient because I just so happen to have a solution for that. Yup, that's right, I'm going to use the human form again. Fred can only use Mamudoon after Mahamahan, so when the expel attack gets blocked, he loses 2 press turns, thus ending the enemy phase and preventing Mamudoon from getting used. The only issue with being in human form is that my bullets deal no damage because I have no strength at all. To call this fight painful would be an understatement, but nevertheless, I kept shooting the big dude like my life depended on it. After 25 minutes of pure struggle, Fred ran out of MP, and soon after, I ended the fight with mankind's most powerful creation, the gun. If you are familiar with Nocturne, you already know that there is more to this boss than his human form, but we will keep that for later. With the caveman gone, I decided to go back to the Spencer mansion, and I did that for 2 reasons. To devour the Nigi Mitamas in order to grab Mabufudain as well as Ice Resist, and also to complete the questline you can do in this dungeon. The key required for opening the blue chest is hidden somewhere inside the mansion. In my first playthrough, I found it pretty quickly, but doing it again for this run made me realize that there are actually more keys. There is a Fomor that you can defeat to obtain the silver key, but that's not the one you want. There is also a Kuhulan who is in the middle of an identity crisis. Unsure about how to tackle this problem, they asked me how they should live their life, and I told them that they should find their own identity. Satisfied by my answer, the demon gave me the gold key, then disappeared. By the way, that key is also not the right one. The demon who has the right key we are looking for is a Titania, and she has something pretty interesting to say when you talk to her.
La la la, la la. How truly beautiful am I, Queen of the Fairies. Hey, what are you looking at? Oh, I get it. Now you're going to embarrass me by telling all my comrades what you saw me doing. I'll ram this sugar key so far up your ass that it can watch me kick the crap out of you!
Devour your enemies.
At last, we got the right item. Now we just need to give the key to the Pyro Jack to obtain the... Just kidding, the little rascal runs off after opening the chest. Now, if we go to the very top of the mansion where we fought Meek, a special boss will be waiting for us, King Frost. First, let me get something out of the way. This boss has no weakness. Yeah, shocking, I know. The king gets 3 press turns and he has 2 unique moves. The first one is Celestial Gift, an attack that the king can use to summon Jack Bros. The second one is a powerful attack called Frost Rush. By the way, don't be fooled by the name because this attack deals almighty damage, not ice. Also, I gotta admit that this boss looks cool and he has some of the cutest animations I've ever seen. Ah, look at how he's summoning the Jack Bros. Oh shit, I'm about to die. So the king doesn't have any weaknesses, but his Jack Bros do. Since they are weak to fire, I go for Agi-Dyne to bring them low, and then I use Matera-Dyne to finish off the Jack Bros while dealing damage to the king. The goons don't hit hard, but they can buff King Frost with Tarukaja and Makakaja, which is why I always make sure to take them out after they spawn. Also, when this guy gets low enough, his animation changes and it has to be one of the saddest low HP stances I've ever seen. Sorry King Frost, but you have to go. And that takes care of the optional side quest for now. Before leaving the mansion, I spent all my money on the very important mantra, Dark Leader. This one is very expensive, but it's well worth the price, because mastering it gives me access to two amazing tools. Last Word, a powerful single target almighty attack, and Mind Charge to crank those magic damage numbers even higher. Now we can explore Ajna. One thing that bugs me about this dungeon is that right before entering inside, you can see a shiny object on the rooftop, and even after finishing this game once, I have no idea how you get to it. Hopefully one day I will find a way. In this dungeon, there are 3 bosses that we need to defeat in order to reach Varin. The first one is 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁, a boss that should be fairly easy to destroy if it wasn't for one thing.
Another one. And another one.
Ugh, this is giving me Nocturne War flashbacks. This guy sucks, Stone Gaze sucks, I just had to keep going until I was able to taunt the boss twice, and then use Mind Charge to incinerate the camel with my Agi-Dyne. The next boss is Isis, and this is one of those bosses that confused me the most during my first playthrough because of its gimmick. Isis cannot take damage from physical attacks, and whatever element you use against her, she will use it against you as well. Once you understand that though, the fight is fairly easy because you can just use an element that you have a resistance for and then obliterate her. And lastly, we have the Horde of Nidhogg. The main thing you have to watch out for is that one of the Nidhogg will eventually start devouring his comrades like they were mushroom power-ups to grow bigger and bigger. It can look pretty intimidating, but you know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. With these 3 out of the way, it's finally time to pay Varin a visit.
Don't ever call me by that name. I am Colonel Beck.
Varin's Devilman form is called Ravana, and during phase 1 of the fight, you have to play a game of hide and seek. There are multiple spots where the boss could be, and you have to guess which one is actually correct. And if you thought you could cheese this part with an AoE attack, nope, that won't work. You won't be totally clueless though, because Sarah will chime in to give you hints about Ravana's location. They aren't always precise, but the longer it goes on, the more accurate she will be. After you go through this song and dance a couple of times, Ravana will reveal his real form, and phase 2 will officially start. Is it just me or this guy looks like the Starman from Earthbound? Now, typically Ravana is a difficult fight for many reasons, but the main one has to do with his unique skill, Hunger Wave. This skill has a 65% chance to inflict hunger on multiple foes. If your character is hungry, they will either spend their turn doing nothing and take damage, or they will attack one of your allies. By the way, you cannot cure that status yourself. The way it works is that whenever someone is hungry, Sarah will jump in to cure the status for them. When you're playing normally, this status can be a real pain in the ass because Sarah can only cure one person at a time, so if the character you need to use is affected by hunger, the fight can easily start spiraling out of control. But you see, in a solo run, this is a non-issue because only one character will get hit by Hunger Wave. This essentially makes Hunger Wave completely useless. With the main gimmick neutralized, the one thing you still have to watch out for is Ravana's Infinite Wind, which still deals a lot of damage. As I'm sure you might have guessed, this boss has no weakness, but unfortunately for Ravana, I came prepared. If the game is going to deny me my weaknesses to hit, I would just start spamming almighty attacks boosted by Mind Charge. Ravana tried really hard to end our conversation, but after decreasing his defense with Taunt and boosting myself with Mind Charge, I was the one who got the last word. Be gone.
Varin.
Don't call me by that name. I am a colonel. I am Colonel Beck. You, and you too. I know what you've been doing. You've been cheesing the boss fights in this challenge run by going solo. Enjoy your victory while you still can. Because once you reach the real world, your karma will catch up to you,
death itself will come for you. And only then will you understand the true meaning of pain. Oh.
Not sure what that was about, but yeah, let's keep going. Ever since we took care of Varen, I haven't been able to find Sarah. She said she was going to get the milk, so I'm sure she will be back with us eventually. In the meantime, there is another optional boss I want to hunt. In the Citadel, there used to be this empty room that always felt to me like there was more to it than what meets the eye. Well, it turns out that there is a hidden path in that room that you can access after completing 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉𝙁, and it leads to a hidden section of the depths. What? For some reason, I can't help but feel a deep-seated anger inside me whenever I see these guys. They are weak to guns, so I'm sure you can tell how that went. After spending God knows how long on that one water puzzle, I finally made it to the boss I was looking for, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁, and this has to be one of the worst bosses I've ever fought so far. This Hydra-like demon has 8 heads, and you know what that means? Yeah, he gets a press turn for each head, so 8 in total. This snake can hit you with many magic attacks, but since it doesn't have a lot of MP, eventually its moveset will devolve into spamming physical attacks. Mad Rush may not look too dangerous when you check how much damage it deals, but when you consider the fact that this snake will hit you 8 times in a row with an attack that can either hit you once or twice, yeah, the damage racks up pretty fast. Unsurprisingly, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁 has no weakness, so I had to pull out the Mind Charge into Last Word combo. This fight is a slog, not just because 𝙋𝘼𝙁𝙁 has a lot of HP, but because I had to sit through his 8 attack animations every single enemy phase. It took 27 minutes, but eventually I gave the Steely Snake a taste of my last word. The only redeeming thing about this fight is that it allowed me to master the Evil God mantra. This one gives me Debilitate, which is the best debuffing skill in the game, Null Expel, and most importantly, Null Death. Finally, now I will never get cheesed by the Moodle spam again. By the way, there's a ladder past 𝙋𝘼𝙁𝙁 that leads straight into 𝙋𝘖𝙗. It takes a surprisingly long time to get to the end of that passageway, but once you do, you will get the red ring, an item that will be relevant later. Oh, and there is something else as well. I wonder what's past this place right here. Oh, so that's how you get to this point. At last, I found a way to reach that elusive item that was driving me nuts. I love that feeling. With that taken care of, I went back to the sewers and I devoured the Nidhogg to master Godly Beast. This mantra gives you Atma bonus, a passive which increases the amount of AP you gain. Also, while I was looking into the next mantra that I should get, I noticed that one of them was called Wikipedia. The more you know. Speaking of mantras, I took care of another 2 of those. Illusion to learn the magic buff Makakaja, and Insane God because that's the one that unlocks Dekaja and Dekunda. Dekunda in particular is really important because just like in Nocturne, this game has Dekaja stones, but it doesn't have Dekunda stones. This makes Dekunda my only way to remove the debuffs applied to me, and that's greatly appreciated. I then promptly sold all the loot I had found during my little trip. I still don't have enough Maka right now, but this will contribute to unlocking the last important mantra I will need. Noticing that Sarah was still missing, I decided to go back to the Karma Temple. Just before entering inside, you will find a guy called James Mason who wants us to deliver a message to a girl named Amelia. This will be relevant when we cover the sequel DDS2. Now we can take this elevator to go straight to the Sea of Milk? So Sarah really wasn't lying when she said that she was getting the milk, huh? Before we can go any further, I have to face the boss of this area, Vasuki. This guy is huge and I love when games make you fight giant bosses. It makes me wish Vasuki got the same treatment in SMT5. The fight lasted longer than it should have because he managed to confuse me, but I was able to land 4 debilitates and then it only took 3 hits to melt poor Vasuki. Now it's finally time to begin my ascent. This is easily one of my favorite dungeons in DDS1. Eventually, you will have to face the Bird Up Gang. 𝙁𝘖𝙁𝙁 gets 3 press turns and he has a pretty cool strategy. He will use Taunt twice to bring your defense to -4 and your attack to +4, then he will go for Dekaja to remove those attack buffs to make sure you gain nothing from that turn. This is exactly why I got Dekunda, because now I can finally remove those debuffs. The big bird also loves spamming Madoon because of course he has that skill, but I have an answer to that in the form of Null Death. With the tools at my disposal, it was fairly easy to get rid of 𝙁𝘖𝙁𝙁, but once you do that, you will have to immediately face the second member of the Bird Up Gang, Garuda. Unlike 𝙁𝘖𝙁𝙁, this guy is actually a threat. Once you deal enough damage, he will start using Power Charge and Mind Charge to crank up those damage numbers even higher. Thankfully, with the Graven Image, I was always able to recover from the onslaught, and then Last Word got the job done. After taking care of the birds, you will have to go through this dungeon's puzzle. To progress, you have to figure out the correct path by engaging with these teleporting tiles on the floor that will make you face through the walls like you are Danny Phantom. The tiles can only send you left, right, or down. Once you understand how it works, it's pretty fun to engage with this puzzle. I went through more wall shenanigans, and then I finally made it to the penultimate boss standing in my way. Ananta. Wait, I feel like I've seen this guy somewhere else. Just like its cousin Orochi, this is another one of those wow, I can't believe this snake has so many press turns. Ananta isn't too bothersome at the start, so I took all the time in the world to fully debuff him with Debilitate and buff him myself with my 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁 before going for Mind Charge and landing a fat last word in his face. Sadly, this is where the fight takes a turn for the worse. Right after doing that, Ananta will remove his debuffs and your buffs. This is also when the snake gets really obnoxious because it will spam a ton of status moves to get you. The attack buffs allow the snake to deal more damage, but I should be able to survive this turn. But of course, before going into the fight again, I decided to tweak my set. Ananta has 3 annoying status moves: Sonic Wave, Stun Wave, and Dream Haze. To avoid getting cheesed by these attacks, I added Null Nerve and Null Panic. This proved to be the right call because right after I dealt enough damage to trigger phase 2, Ananta went for a status spam chain. Since blocking takes away 2 press turn icons, whenever Ananta goes for his 3 status attacks in a row, he is guaranteed to lose 6 of his 7 press turns, and this makes surviving a lot more manageable. So, Ananta, any last word?
Join myself and King as remedy.
What?
Together we will devour.
And with that done, we are extremely close to the end, but there is one last thing I need to do. If you recall, there was one last mantra I absolutely wanted to get before going further, and it's finally time to get it. I left the tower and went to the shop to sell my last remaining cells. This gave me enough Maka to finally purchase the mantra Dark Lord. Mastering that one lets you learn Megiddo as well as the goated passive skill Null Element. This passive nullifies attacks from the 5 elements, and you will soon see why I wanted to get it so badly. It's time to confront the final boss of the game.
It's been a while, Seraphita.
Oh no! Why are you here?
I've won the custody battle. Pack your stuff. You are coming with me.
No, it can't be.
Sarah? I am your father.
Wait.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Wait, what?
And I'm also your mother, too.
How does that even work?
You'll have to play the sequel to find out.
Sarah!
Ah, you must be the comrades I've heard about. This is a family matter. It no longer concerns you, so why don't you just be good little children and run?
We've had enough of your damn orders! We are taking Sarah to Nirvana. So get your snobby bitch ass out of the way!
Freeze, now.
Damn it!
Hmm? Oh, impressive. So you intend to defeat me all by yourself? Such arrogance. You and your comrades remind me of a group I faced long ago. Meddling brats who are determined to challenge me without using their demon forms. I don't know what you intend to achieve alone, but your hopes and dreams are utterly worthless.
There we go. The second form. Please do not one-shot me. Oh, of course! She goes for the one move! Yeah, so Ariara's first phase is kinda tricky. She has two forms she will alternate between. The Vishnu form she starts the fight in, and the Shiva form that's more offense-oriented. To get to the next stage of the fight, you need to deal enough damage to beat each form twice. With only one press turn, she isn't too threatening at first glance, but there are still things that you need to pay attention to. In her Vishnu form, she will mostly focus on buffing and debuffing, but she can also use 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙗, an attack with a 25% chance to petrify you. After getting stoned by that move once, I made sure to always equip Null Death to prevent that from happening. The other annoying thing the first form can do is spamming Vanity. This attack has a 50% chance to inflict a ton of annoying status effects, and I can't afford to waste my skill slots on the appropriate null skills for those. Fortunately for me, she also has Hunger Wave, and that spell can override whatever disease I'm currently afflicted by. And then I can count on Serah to cure it for me. Once you get to the Shiva form, she will start using physical attacks as well as various elemental spells. Dealing with this form would be fairly easy if it wasn't for Bhairava. This is a severe or mighty attack with 100% accuracy. Even with my 82 vitality, it still does enough damage to one-shot me. What makes Bhairava so menacing is that at any time she can just randomly pull it out to end my life. At first I was extremely scared of it, but after getting one-shot multiple times, I realized that the best strategy was attacking with reckless abandon to beat her before the one-shot move would come out. It took more try than I would like to admit, but eventually my mind charge boosted Pterodines were able to get me out of the first phase. And now we are in phase 2. Ariara's gimmick this time is that she has 6 cores with her, each core representing one element. To make the fight more manageable, you need to destroy the cores in order to hit Ariara directly, but there are 2 issues with this. First, whenever you destroy a core, Ariara gets to immediately bring it back at the start of the enemy phase. This action doesn't cost any press turn icon, so she will always get to do that for free. The second issue is that each core grants her the ability to repel the corresponding element tied to that core. Now you might think that going the Almighty route would be a great solution, but sadly this boss resists Almighty, so that's not ideal. In the solo run, destroying one core at a time doesn't work because Ariara can bring it back before you get to deal damage. So the only real solution to deal with this is to use an AoE, but this is usually risky to do because both Ariara and one of her cores are guaranteed to repel whatever element you use. This means that if you go for an AoE, you will get hit in the face twice. This might look like a difficult puzzle to solve, but fortunately for me, I got the perfect skill to deal with this. Null Element. Thanks to Null Element, I can destroy the cores without having to worry about the repelled attacks because the damage will get blocked by my passive. With this skill, the strat is simple. I will need 2 attacks. The AoE I will use to destroy the cores, and a single target spell that's from a different element than my AoE. In my case, I picked Maragidine and Pterodine. With Maragidine, I can destroy the cores, and once that's done, I have enough time to use Mind Charge and then click Pterodine to hit Ariara before the Earth core comes back. At this point, I pretty much block or take little damage from whatever Ariara tries to throw at me. The 2 things I have to worry about are Reincarnation, a powerful combo skill that she can use as long as she has 2 cores, and Vanity because status ailments still suck ass. This was a pretty long fight, but with the correct strategy, I was able to overcome the obstacles in my way, and after 21 minutes, Ariara was finally defeated. GG, let's go! And voila! Hey, we did it! With this victory, the gang was able to escape from the junkyard and finally reach the tax-free world. Now, while I have managed to defeat the final boss, there is still some unfinished business that I have to take care of, so it's time to challenge the remaining bosses left in the game. Something that I never noticed during my first playthrough is that if you go back to Manipura and run to the far right side of the map, you will find a door there. After entering inside and taking the ladder, you will find yourself inside the sewers. Again. Outside of getting useful items, I came here specifically because that's where you get to challenge Beelzebub for a round 2. Just like in Nocturne, fire is the way to go for the giant fly, so my only source of offense comes from Mind Charge boosted Agidine. Do not let phase 1 fool you. It might seem easy because Beelzebub keeps using spells that I can block with Null Element, but eventually his Nocturne flip will be switched. From there, he gets a ton of options to inflict pain upon you. Beelzebub will regularly buff his magic with 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁 before nuking you with 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁, and he also gets to use his signature attack Death Flies. This attack still has a guaranteed chance to one-shot you if you don't block Death, so I made sure to equip Null Death to counter that. Sadly, I didn't think about equipping Null Expel, and I wish I did because this boss regularly goes for Mahamahon. With the way Expel attacks have been reworked in this game, they still manage to remain a big threat because they are guaranteed to remove a big chunk of your HP, and this makes the fight even harder. During the entirety of Phase 2, it felt like I had my back against the wall, forced to survive Beelzebub's relentless attacks. The situation was looking grim, but fortunately I had amazing tools to ensure I could survive. With the Graven Image, I had an infinite supply of healing, and thanks to my Dekaja rocks, I could tone down Beelzebub's offense. To say that there were many close calls would be an understatement. This battle was truly challenging, but I never gave up, and after 20 minutes of intense combat, I managed to incinerate the giant fruit fly. Oh! No! No! Stop! Stop, please! No, 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 no! No! No, 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 no! No, 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 let me run away. Let me run away. Let me run away. Let me run away. Oh! Oh, they almost killed me! Ooh, that was close. After taking care of the fly invasion, I went back to Manipura, and for some reason, I decided to talk to this one dude. Let me read you what he says. Getting concert tickets is tough sometimes, you know. Sometimes you try so hard and get so far. But in the end, that doesn't always matter. Huh, now where have I heard that before? By the way, for defeating Beelzebub, you get the High Priest mantra, and that one allows you to learn his unique move Death Flies. I love when games let you learn boss-only moves like that. Now, for this next section, I got really confused. There are 4 Elder Dragons that are supposed to appear all over the junkyard, but I couldn't get them to show up. Well, it turns out that you have to talk to this dude at the Karma Temple, and then they will spawn all over the junkyard. Let's start with the first member of the quartet, Fen Wang. If you bring Moltres to -4 by casting Debilitate, it will remove your debuffs with Dekunda, but if you stick to -3, that won't happen. With this in mind, I just followed the Megaten flowchart. Me buff, me debuff, me click almighty move, and thanks to that, I was able to destroy this chicken fairly quickly. The next one on the list is, how do you pronounce this name? This fight completely took me by surprise. Let me show you why.
Hey, we finally found them! We? I believe I did all the work.
If you call napping in your shell work, then yes.
Can I help it if I require 9 to 10 hours of sleep per day?
You mean in addition to the 12 hours you get each night?
Whenever I saw this demon's design, I always felt like the turtle and its dragon tail were 2 separate entities, so it's nice to see the game play around with that concept. Also, listening to these 2 bickering like an old married couple is hilarious.
Hey, you there!
Don't pretend to be innocent. I'm not stupid, you know. Now, tell me what you just did.
I think they just took a cheap shot at us when we weren't looking.
You did, didn't you? We ought to give them a taste of their own medicine.
You talk too much. You know that?
Shut up, slowpoke. I'm making an important point here. Listen, they're laughing at us over there. We gotta do something about it.
This might be more than we can handle.
Shut up, you coward! Fight like a demon!
Guys?
What?
Oh shit!
Die! After taking care of the chicken and the turtle, I went to Manipura to challenge the 3rd beast, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁. The Megaten flowchart of buffing and debuffing works perfectly on this guy, but once you hit him in the head enough times, his brain cells will finally start working. He will swiftly remove his debuffs and your buffs, making the fight tougher in the process. With Tarukaja, Power Charge, as well as the ability to grant himself more Preston icons with Rage, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 actually turns into a pretty dangerous foe near the end, but by this point, the fight is already over. I looked the tiger in the eye and then I showed him who was the boss. With these 3 gone, there is only one beast left for me to hunt. Long the dragon. Long is more of a magic spammer, which is very unfortunate because he literally cannot hit me. Once he realized that he couldn't win, his focus shifted to annoying me as much as possible by continuously draining my MP and spamming Debilitate. Nice argument, Mr. Long, but to that I only have one thing to say. Last word! And just like that, our monster hunting quest comes to an end. Well, not quite. There is one last Elder Dragon that I can face, but before tackling this quest, there is something I need to do. Apparently there is a demon with beautiful silver wings who is waiting for me. I wonder who that is.
Oh shit!
Here we go again.
Oh boy, Metatron is also in this game, and he means business. Unlike the jobbers I faced previously, this guy poses a massive threat for the same reason he gave me trouble in my Nocturne Demonless run. Buffs? Check. Debuffs? Check. Very powerful almighty attacks? Also check. During the first phase, I had total control over the fight, but once we reached phase 2, he completely turned the tables on me. Atlus decided to make this guy even more threatening than he was back in Nocturne by giving him Mind Charge. Trust me, you don't know what fear truly is until you see how much damage Metatron can deal to you when he goes for a Mind Charge boosted Fire of Sinai. Every time I was able to drop his HP into the red, but then my progress would reach a screeching halt because I simply couldn't withstand Metatron's insane damage output. It was as if God himself, disgusted by my blatant abuse of Mind Charge into almighty damage, decided to give me a taste of my own medicine. Dropping his HP low enough proved to be very difficult, but in the end, I managed to get into the right position, and that allowed me to beat the voice of God. Alright Metatron, you fought well, but unfortunately for you, I will have the last word. Yeah, I really thought I had him, but I didn't. One thing that I didn't mention yet that makes this fight really difficult in the solo setting is that Metatron has the 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉 and the 𝙋𝘼𝙄. If you are lucky, you will be too busy burning your heretic ass to use them, but if you are like me, you will spam this move like there is no tomorrow. Fully buffing and debuffing takes me a ton of time, so to have all my efforts being flushed down the drain whenever Metatron goes for these moves is mildly annoying at best and soul-crushing at worst. Nevertheless, I was still determined to see this through, so I took some time to tweak my set for the next rematch. In the beginning, I was using both 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉 and 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉, but I decided to only focus on 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉 to make the 𝙋𝘖𝙄 less annoying to deal with. One thing that you need to pay attention to during this fight is the level of Metatron's buffs. Once he reaches +4 with a buff, he will start using 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉 to decrease your defense. And considering how hard he's already hitting, you definitely don't want to see 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉 ever. This means that you have to use the 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉 every now and then to bring him back to neutral whenever he gets too close to maxing out. Equipping the 𝙋𝘖𝙄𝙉 is something I thought about, but ultimately I decided to keep my moveset the way it was. Instead, I used the 𝙋𝘖𝙄 stones to achieve the same thing. Unfortunately, I only had a limited amount of those, and eventually I had used them all. Metatron had removed his debuffs as well as my own buffs. The only option I had left was finishing him before he would finish me. Yes! Die! What? Kill him, please, Surf. End this. Okay, no. Die! Oh! Ooh. Where is your god? Where is your god now? And now I can finally focus on defeating the last Elder Dragon left in this game residing inside the Karma Tower. While preparing for the fight, I checked what useful mantras I could still learn, and that's when I realized something. I have access to one of the best mantras in the entire game. Monotheist. This mantra can teach you the passive skill called Null Attack, and this one nullifies everything except Almighty. I was able to purchase the mantra, and then I just had to devour 3 Mitamas with Atma bonus to master the thing and unlock my godly passive. With that done, I climbed the tower, opened the door, and faced my last foe, the Elder Dragon 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 Gaming. Oh, and if you are wondering why I'm calling him 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 Gaming, that's because there is a YouTube channel that goes by that same name. No, I'm not kidding, you can look it up. There is even a video where you can see 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 looking at the monitor screen while rocking his favorite gamer headset and a controller. As far as offense goes, 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 Gaming has 2 things you really need to watch out for. His basic attack, which is Almighty, meaning that it cannot be blocked, and his unique move called Celestial Ray. This is a severe Almighty attack, but it doesn't just deal a lot of damage. It's guaranteed to inflict an annoying status effect. This would be an infuriating move to deal with, but thanks to Null Attack, I will never have to worry about the annoying ailments. By the way, the long in 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉 Gaming isn't just for show. He has the highest HP stat in the entire game and resists everything including Almighty. Needless to say, this is gonna take a while. Wenglong's defining trait is that he has many modes that he can cycle through whenever he wants. You will know when his mode changes because he will make a roar that sounds like grrrr. The game doesn't tell you which mode he is currently in, but you can guess what it is based on what attacks you see. In total, he has 7 modes. A neutral mode he starts the fight with, where he can use the 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙐𝙇 and the 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙉, as well as 4 elemental modes: Fire, Ice, Force, and Earth. And lastly, Wenglong has 2 other interesting states he can go in: Attack mode and Defense mode. You will know when he is in attack mode because instead of roaring like usual, he will add exclamation marks to really show that he's pissed off. In that mode, Wenglong Gaming will unleash the fury of the heavens by spamming Megiddoleon and Celestial Ray over and over. This is when he is at his strongest, but also at his most vulnerable, because during attack mode, Wenglong takes increased damage. After spending a couple of turns vomiting almighty moves all over you, he will go into his defense mode. When Wenglong is in that stance, you have no way to damage him because he blocks every single damage type. You will have to sit there and watch him make weird noises until he decides to go back to his neutral mode. While the mode Wenglong decides to go in is completely random, there is a string that he is guaranteed to follow. If he enters attack mode, he will always go from that to defense mode and then neutral. With this in mind, my plan is simple. Throughout the fight, I need to set up my debilities and my 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙗 as well as Mind Charge, then patiently wait for when Wenglong will enter in his attack stance. After landing a fat last word, he will go into his defense mode where he cannot be damaged. Then he will go into neutral mode where he will always use the 𝙋𝘼𝙄𝙗 and the 𝙋𝘼𝙄. This is actually when Wang is at his strongest because he gets to hit me with his almighty attacks and I cannot hide behind buffs and debuffs to decrease their damage. It's a rough phase, but I just need to survive until Wang goes into one of his elemental modes again. After dealing 5k with last word, I had to survive Wang's fury. It took me many turns, but I was able to fully rebuff and debuff, and that allowed me to once again deal an insane amount of damage. Right after that, Wenglong went from defense to neutral mode. I thought that I would have enough time to prepare myself, but I was mistaken because the Elder Dragon decided to immediately go back into attack mode before I was ready to properly deal with it. This unexpected turn of event forced me to focus on defense rather than offense. While it was saddening to see an opportunity to deal damage be wasted, I knew that all I needed was another shot. It took me many turns to prepare, but eventually I managed to get back to a good position. The only thing left was waiting for the attack mode to rear its ugly head. With my final enemy defeated, there was one last thing I needed to do. Climbing the tower for the 3rd time, defeating Ariara, and saving my game. This data will come in handy whenever I get around to covering the sequel, Digital Devour Saga 2. Also, I just wanted to say special thanks to all the fantastic people who were involved in the making of this video, as well as my newest channel member, Oplin2. If you wanna know more about my YouTube membership offer, you can do so by clicking on the join button next to my name. Additionally, I made a video about this topic and you can find a link to it in the description below. This is so dumb. Stop! You fool!